Hello. Alright, chat. Testing mic. Okay, that should be decent. Well, no, this one's an error. This one's like maybe an error. Like it shows a lack of knowledge of how to handle these situations from a business perspective, even though it's also presenting itself as having some ideas about how to handle the situation. Like it seems like it's trying to show knowledge that he doesn't really have. Like the fact of chargebacks and online reviews are pretty basic. Also, stuff being illegal is important to have a clue about. So you see, like, getting bad Yelp reviews, getting charged back, and breaking laws as a way of making profit, you're making a mistake. Like, that's not a way of making as much money as possible. It's very foolish. He's trying to, like, not think about things and run his business into the ground as a result. But I think it's, like, sufficiently major things to be missing, along with saying a lot as if you know stuff. Then this one. This is contradicting Gist. So Gist says he thinks it's a case of focusing on optimizing local optima while ignoring the whole. And this says it's compatible with optimizing a whole. So that's contradicting him. It's disagreeing with him. And he thinks that's not an error. It was just a non-knowing more stuff he didn't know. Okay, as far as the way it's done in schools, that's ambiguous. If you mean like school as a whole, like everything about school put together, then I mean it's bad, certainly. It doesn't work well. But that doesn't mean it's focusing on local optima. Like it's bad at local optima and global optima. And then if you just mean school-like tests, but used in a different context, take away all the other parts of school. I think that those could be useful, like not perfect, but you can imagine them being used on purpose outside of school for other things. Like I've voluntarily taken test like things before. Like on stream previously, there was a test about gerunds and participles with 10 questions. And I went through and I did them all, and then it gave me a grade of 10 out of 10. And that was similar to a school test. Like, you could imagine that being a quiz in school. It might have been on an academic site, I don't remember. So that test was not just local optima, it was helping me optimize my whole grammar knowledge by checking that particular knowledge. So I know, do I need to study there more or not? Do I have a weakness there? Oh, emphasis on typically. Okay, my point still applies. Right, and again, you can see this outside of school. Like, when people sell educational courses online, they're frequently topic specific, like a course on beginner Ruby programming or whatever. People don't want that mixed with a history course. Right? But the presentation here is not, I'm a novice who has no idea what I'm talking about. It is, here are like a bunch of bullet points about what the world is like that are like substantial and kind of dense and like written like you do know what you're talking about. Yeah, changing stuff to questions would be better. Like, they'd still maybe not be the best questions because it's just overly confused and too far away from what's actually reasonable. Like, it's better in general if your questions have more to do with existing knowledge in the field when you're a beginner, rather than going off in your own direction. There's some potential value in going off in your own direction, but it can often be a waste of time where you're just sort of trying to reinvent the wheel and you're getting it wrong, and then your questions are like, why is this wrong? And then someone tells you why it's wrong, and you still don't know what the actual ideas in the field are or why they're that. Right, so there is a real problem there, and in some cases, something like what just said could help. You also have to check not just if your solution works, but if it causes other problems. Because it could work as a local optima to solve one problem while causing a bunch of other problems. I did not know writing this post would have been short and easy for just, he wrote like a decent amount, like 2 significant paragraphs here and then a couple more here. So that's a good sign, I guess. I know some people writing a similar kind of post could get bogged down for hours and have a bad time, and it's better to do it in a quick, easy way. And the quality here was still okay. So it's not like he dropped his quality into the trash by going fast, which is what some people are worried about. Like, they don't want to do a bad job. But this is okay. It's better quality than the previous post that got criticized. Yeah, simpler examples for a concept you're new to, get them right, and then after you've checked that you're getting stuff right, move on to more advanced concepts or applications. Right, stuff like pointing out, okay, here's the optima, like here's the local optima, here's the global optima, here's how this increases the local optima, here's how this decreases the global optima, etc. Like you could actually point out specifics. For an outline where you're trying to be short and like minimal, I would not put the clause groupings when there's only one clause. I would put them if there were multiple clauses. But it's kind of unnecessary when it's like a 3-word outline, especially. I would also, in the outline, not do the phrase groupings for one-word phrases in general, although maybe it's good to start that way because it separates the verb, subject, and object or complement. And having the separation clearly visible has some value for people who are newer at this. But you do get that separation in the more full version. But anyways, for the clause, it's like it's not separating anything, it's just at the very beginning and end. So I'd leave it out of the outline when there's only one. Not is a word I normally don't leave out of outlines because it's really important. However, this is also a valid outline, like it's meaningful. It helps you understand the core of this sentence in some way. Like it's misleading about the content, but in terms of the structure of the sentence, it is these things, and then not is actually a modifier. It's just a especially important modifier. I'm gonna tweet the stream also. I made a minimal Twitter list with only a few people on it of like my favorite people to read. So I miss fewer of their tweets and see other junk less. I think it's a good alternative. When you're on a list, it doesn't group things together in a row and like normal. Like if I go on regular Twitter, the patio tweets look like this, where it's connecting them and showing multiple. But then on the list, they're all separate. Wait, is this all out of order? Is it backwards? Yeah, it's all backwards. I guess that makes sense. Because the last tweet was tweeted more recently. Alright, back to the email. You don't have to omit a word if it's a really short sentence. I think it's optional. It was only a 4-word sentence anyways. Isn't that included in the essay? What type of linking is this? I think there's also... I think there might be something here. I guess those are action verbs. Anyway, yeah, there's a question given at the beginning explicitly in quote marks for this exact purpose. It is covered. This is okay, but the negation is not the answer because the relationship is an is relationship and negation does not describe is. Negation is like the not. You know, that's for a different word. There is a 4-word sentence, so there should be 4 questions. The is relationship, you can look it up. Under be, because be is like the root word. But anyways, having the state, quality, identity, nature, role, etc. specified. That's the relationship. It means that one thing has a state, quality, identity, nature, whatever, specified as the second thing, the complement. The subject has the state or whatever of the complement. In this case, seeing isn't believing. So think about it if you said seeing is believing, and you can look at what the relationship is, because the negation doesn't change the type of relationship, it just says not that relationship rather than yes that relationship. So seeing is believing. I think seeing has the nature of believing. You could say it's identity. But it's not really identity. Like they're kind of different. It's more of a metaphorical identity, which is kind of like having the same nature, having the same role, being similar in some major way. So that's the kind of relationship it is. Then the word not says the opposite of that. And then, yeah, what is the thing being linked, or what has the relationship seen? And then, what's it linked to? Sure, believing. These are okay, but this one's not correct. I bet Anne noticed. Anne combined them. They were a contraction. But this actually described a relationship, like being not the same as a type of relationship. It's a similarity relationship plus a negation. Whereas in gist version, negation isn't a relationship. And the question was what kind of relationship? Yeah, these are fine. I'm gonna change the line height a little bit. How do you do that? Spacing? Line height multiple. Okay. Of cookies is adjective. Okay, sure. That's and commenting on just. Okay. I got one with two clauses. The outline just omitted thinking, because that leaves each clause with 3 words, which is normally the minimum, unless you have an action verb with no object. Then you can have a 2-word clause. Yeah, a lot of my sentences were simple, so they didn't have a ton to leave out in the outline. If you really want to make a short outline, you just do I like philosophy and you leave out the reason. If you're really if you're like worrying about, paragraphs or pages of text, then that would be a really short version of this. It's just a middle of that. What action happened? Like, why did the action occur? Okay, this is a very awkward question. A better question is, because answers like what is the reason for something. So it helps to look words up. See, because means for the reason that or since. So what was the reason for that action would be a better question. Or what was the reason for the liking? Also, when I'm doing them, I try to focus on one word at a time. So here I would say because something. I would use like a generic placeholder for the rest of the sentence rather than giving it early. I'd say the action occurred like for a reason because of something. And then the next question would be like, what was the something? Involvement. What was involved? It, which means philosophy. And then what was it involved with? Thinking methods. Just left out, maybe he left out methods, like there was no question for the word methods. He's not doing one question per word again. I guess I'll reply to these really quickly. Don't need the intensifier. This is like, I mean, this would be better. It's not really a normal thing to say, because if you have no reason, why even bring it up? But if it seems important to you to bring up, then this is a much better way to bring it up. I'm curious now if just has any actual reasons, because he doesn't give any here. Like, in his follow-up post, he's still not giving reasons. Did he never have any? Like all of this is hypothetical. He's sort of like, if it was this situation, I could have said this. But he doesn't say what the actual situation was. Alright, that's what I said as well. Oh, I was gonna reply again. It was this one. Just really quickly. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to that. Oh yeah, subbing in the word for the pronoun is good. I often do that in the original version as well. I mean, it's fine either way. Like this says phrase and clause grouping. I often just do one thing, or like one more complete thing and one really short one. And in the more complete thing, substituting the pronoun helps you if your goal is to understand it. But if your goal is just to figure out phrase and clause groupings, like that's what you're practicing, then leaving the pronoun alone is good. What action happens? Who likes I? What do I like? Philosophy. Why do I like? Because of some. Right, this is a placeholder. This is a good question answer. I like this. It's not saying the reason is methods because we haven't gotten to that word yet. It's focusing on the because. And it's like because, and when you read because, you're knowing there will be some sort of reason, but you don't yet know what it is. That's the information you're getting from this word. What is the reason? Something involves something else. What involves something? It, philosophy. What does philosophy involve? Method. Like, yeah, this is good. I think this is really well done. Okay, so Justin post involves a video, I believe. Wait, did it? I thought I looked at this yesterday and it involved a video link, but maybe not. I guess I just didn't pay much attention to it because it was long. Right, likelihood of me doesn't make sense. Likelihood of doing does make sense. Right, this. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they're talking about the likelihood of existence, though. Yes, this is what I think. Yeah. Urines don't take subjects a lot. I think it's not super common, but I think sometimes it's just the best reading. Hey Justin, you showed up just as I was looking at your post. Okay, cool. Yeah, this whole post was very clear. I think it all made sense and was like well organized, lots of short paragraphs. It was very understandable and like went through the issues, not leaving a lot of stuff out. Like it was pretty comprehensive, step by step, so that was all good. Okay, this one I'm skipping for now, so I'm caught up on FI. Which means I can either look at some videos or blog comments. I'm gonna do some videos for a change of pace. Oh yeah, I also have the physics blog discussion thing to skim. I'm probably not gonna pay much attention to it. There's a lot of comments, and the blog owner is an asshole who flames me. But I participated in the thread earlier, so I'm getting all these notifications. But I think they're just talking to each other. Like, I don't think any of those are going to be replies to me. Maybe one or two near the beginning, but then after that, they'll be talking with themselves. Anyway, I'm going to skip Limcube, Mineral, and Chronodota. Limcube is speedrun stuff. See, this is Zelda Breath of the Wild tutorial. And same thing. Oh, ML7 I'm also skipping. ML7, Mineral, and Chrono are all Overwatch. House of Sunny is a politics podcast, but it's long. See, this one's 64 minutes, so I'm not going to listen to that right now. So let's go to Justin Videos. Oh, I was going to open Safari, but I realized I need Chrome because of playback speed.
Alright, more grammar. So I linked what I said was a decent short grammar quiz I found specifically on distinguishing
That's a bit too quiet. Let's see.
between gerunds and participles. And
Right, so I need to put this back up to full in sound source. I'm gonna try the magic wand thing as well. It's supposed to even out audio levels and make audio sound better. I don't know if it's a good idea or not.
Elliot got 10 out of 10. I got 10 out of 10 as well, and Anne got 10 out of 10. That her grammar studying is having some measurable effects. That's cool. She didn't know when.
So this is before Justin fixed some of his background noise problems, so you can really notice the air conditioner, I think. But let's try without magic wand and see how that sounds to compare.
Between gerunds and participles. And Elliot got 10 out of 10. I got 10 out of 10 as well, and Anne got 10 out of 10. That her grammar studying is having some measurable effects. That's cool. She didn't know when a positive was or subjective compliment. So I replied to this email by Kate, and she's replied. So she meant to be or to become. Okay. Regarding my parenthetical phrase. Right. So
I think the wand sometimes makes the air conditioner noise worse, so I'm gonna leave it off. Also, I think the sound is a little low still, so I'm gonna try to fix that. I go to the beats, then like raise the output volume, and go back to my aggregate device. You can't change the the sound for the individual devices when using the aggregate device. So.
So I talked about this in the previous. It said.
Oh yeah, that's
This
louder.
case starts saying there's an implied infinitive of to be, which is similar to the infinitives above. Which I'm sorry, which similar to the infinitives above describes the nature of the making. And I said that there should be set off with like as a parenthetical phrase. And she says, I think doing that creates too much emphasis, which your point is noted. I could have used commas or put the plural here. You know, if you want to internalize habits of grammar spelling, you gotta notice stuff as you're going along and not just have a special grammar method. So Sam pointed out, and I hope. Okay. All right. So I'm not sure what happened, but I lost a bit of video. I'm gonna figure that out later. But so I was talking about Kate needing parentheses to set off a bit of her writing, and she thought it would create too much emphasis. And I was just saying that I think parentheses are used.
Okay, how is the volume for the video and for my mic in general and also compared to each other? I want my mic to be a bit louder than the video, but not like a lot louder. Hopefully the volume levels are okay now.
This word is not correct because, or at least it's not common. It's at least less common than this for.
I didn't really pay much attention the first 2 minutes, but there's like a dozen of these. Okay, I'm gonna turn the video up a bit more. Try this.
When you talk about the brackets as opposed to a comment or remark or something like that. And then Kate asked if I found the punctuation lacking phrase distracting. And that, yeah, I actually started misreading the sentence when I was writing Slate's email. You can hopefully see this in the video that I uploaded during my writing process. Just putting I also did the video somehow, so I'm not sure if that part got saved. All right, anyway, moving on. So now we're talking about substance of the grammatical discussion. So Kate wants to say make him angry means you make him to be or become angry. And I say why not? Why not just read it as subject, verb, object, adjective. Angry being an adjective, as opposed to implying a whole infinitive, to be or to become. So why do we want to imply a whole infinitive? And she says, if you try to explain why angry modifies him, I think you have to say something like angry tells us how he should be made. By the way, an aside, I think I may have figured out, well, I'm trying to figure out the video thing. I have an idea as to what went wrong, but I'll check it out later. Okay, so Kate says, basically, with that reading, you have to say, angry tells us how he should be made. It doesn't say how. No, that's wrong. It says what. What he should, like, what emotional state. It's like, well, then, and she says, if that's the case, then functionally the word angry gives more about the word make. No, if you said something like, you make music brilliantly, then I think brilliantly is an adverb telling us about how you make the music. It's not directly talking about, you might infer opinion about the music based on the statement, but the statement itself isn't talking about. Angry is telling us about the state, the emotional state of a him at some unspecified point in time. It's not talking about the process of the making at all. The making is not angry, whereas the making in you make music brilliantly is brilliant. So I think you are mistaken. Consider the example is telling us about the state, the emotional state of a him at some unspecified point in time. It's not talking about the process of the making at all. The making is not angry, whereas the making in you make music brilliant.
Okay, so this definitely has the words run together too much. So there's not enough silence in between sentences and stuff, which I know Justin improved later, but it's very noticeable in this old video.
Is brilliant. So I think you are mistaken. Consider the example. Make the steel strong. I'd written this earlier, and that was part of what that was. I think the strength refers to the steel, not the making. Now that I think about it, isn't angry and make him angry just an object complement? And so now I'm caught up to where I was. I did wind up writing this. I wasn't. Fuck. I'm doing my excessive mystery solving. Right. I think maybe it even gives. Let's give an example of me now. Right. I'm trying to find one. To see, my brother named the pig Hugo. The blanket kept the pig more. Diane calls me her buddy. I prefer my coffee black. I paint the plaster walls white. Now, wait a minute. Subject, verb, object, infinitive complement. Interesting. The grammar plot thickens. Right. So.
Wait, I'm gonna look at something in sound. So we go to this. Oh, there's a separate setting for this. Is the special like playback device that the stream actually picks up. Let's turn that up a little as well. Then go back to the aggregate device. That'll be a little louder.
An object complement is a word or phrase that comes after a direct object and renames it. And this is usually a noun, pronoun, or adjective. So infinitives can serve as nouns, infinitives can serve as adjectives. So
tell me if the video is still too soft after that update.
Check this out. Let's see what it's saying. Let's see examples. She's forcing me to work. We need you to make. Janet's father wants her to go. I would like the boss to see. He persuaded me to marry. They taught me to work. Right, so I think it's quite possible that objective complements may be the key to understanding a lot of this confusing stuff. We'll see, I guess. So I was thinking about it, and I think that because there's some compatibility between the object complement reading that I'm now thinking may be the solution to some of these issues, and Anon's interpretation. There's some incompatibility, but there's some overlap, because Anon says that the infinitive clauses maybe are functioning as a noun, or maybe there's not so much compatibility. I think part of what I like about my interpretation is that it doesn't stick a object pronoun in a subject role, so we can just avoid doing that, which I find problematic and which I already talked about. So Kate has some analysis here. It's the same issue we ran into with let B. Consider make tall tuning.
Oh, about putting an object pronoun in a subject role. That's how they work 100% of the time with verbals, as far as I know.
Here the function of the word tall is to give us info about Tony. In contrast, the primary function of the word angry is to give us info about the verb make. So I think Kate's example make tall tone angry is just another object complement, right? So just this random discussion I found. Somebody says, by definition, at least some definitions, an object complement is placed postpositively, but not all postpositive adjectives are object complements. To call them that requires the noun to be a direct object. So I said implying an entire infinitive troubles me. Great. Like, it seems a lot more straightforward and simple to say that a direct object and a word following it have some relationship where, like, the word following it is modifying.
This video is awkward because, one, I've already, like, read through all the emails related, and two, I know Justin changed his mind about some of this stuff since the video was made, like 2 weeks ago.
The object rather than imply an infinitive that isn't even there, like in part. Consider the meaning of make him angry. You're telling someone to make some other person angry. Kate asks me, when you see these bare infinitives, do you see words whose function is to describe the nature of the making? So I'm rearranging this email a bit.
I'm just gonna
I'm gonna focus on the
ahead.
angry case. You make him angry. And just try and see if we can get on to consensus about that. And I'm gonna table. Alright, even more grammar. So this is the 4th grammar video I'm making, and we're gonna see some of the latest discussion on the fallible ideas list about grammar topics. So a non-wrote reply to my question about verbals, whether
Yeah, I'm just gonna skim through some of these, I think, until I get to the more recent ones, maybe.
verbals govern their clause. I say a non-finite verb can serve as the main verb in a clause.
It'll be better in the future because I'll stay caught up more, I think.
As far as I know, I thought not serving as the main verb in a clause was one of the defining attributes of non-finite verbs. And then a non replies, if a verbal, meaning non-finite verb, equals non-finite verb, has a subject, object, or complement, it is the leader of that group of words exactly the same as a finite verb with a subject, object, or complement. And non says you essentially took a non-finite verb with a subject and wanted to draw a tree diagram with the subject above its verb rather than vice versa. See? So Anon says, if a verbal has a subject, object, or complement, it is the leader of that group of words exactly the same as a finite verb with a subject, object, or complement. And I think there's like a fundamental disagreement here in terms of the basic analysis of verbals, and it took me a minute to figure that out, or more than a minute. But I think we're just looking at verbals in a completely different way. Right, so I brought it up here.
Okay, so this part is more interesting to me than the previous video. Like, I think going in order is good, and I want to see this part.
So, Anon's approach, this is from Eliot's Grammar Educational Materials. Verbs lead their clause with subjects and objects, modifiers attached with a modifier. And so, there's an example here. John threw balls. And then through, which is the verb, governs John, which is the subject, and balls, which is the main event. And I guess how I take Anon is following this approach with verbals as well. And I think I disagree very strongly with that. Because I analyze verbals not as verbs, but as a verb-derived word form whose grammatical analysis depends on what function they are actually performing in a given clause or phrase. That's what I think the core of the disagreement.
I think even if you analyze them that way, they still lead their clause or phrase.
And so there could be some overlap in terms of how certain parts of the analysis come out, but I think that's a big part of the disagreement is this fundamental thing. And so I'm gonna take Anon's advice. Well, actually, this first part I'm not sure exactly which thing I did that he's referring to because it doesn't seem to be quoted directly in the previous material. Like this is Kate's stuff. But anyway, there's the second part where he says, by the way, it would help if you posted diagrams of what you're thinking. So I will do that, but just quickly in words. So I think Anon would say with the sentence, my desire was to become a doctor. Anon would say, I think we would both agree, I think, that the overall structure of the sentence is that there is a subject, desire, there's a linking verb, was, and then a complement, this whole thing. And I think Anon would say that to become governs this whole thing because it's a verb. And what I would say is that to become governs this whole thing. It's like it's the leader of this group of words because it's a main noun. Right. I agree with this. I didn't even read this part until I finished my own analysis. Because it would be helpful if I'm like analyzing and then this random one page turns out totally different, but it would be an indication maybe I was going awry. So in these sentences, the infinitives to become and to serve are functioning as complement to subject of the verb was and is respectively, and hence their functioning as noun. Right. So this is a noun. This is an object of this verbal, which is telling us more about the noun. I'm gonna diagram it. But essentially it's like you can have something that comes after a noun that modifies the noun that comes before it. That's not the standard orientation of English syntax. You know, I say a red ball, a cheesy pizza. But you can have that situation.
You can turn off these tip things. I do that in a lot of apps because they just waste space.
And there's various examples of that. And they have different names. There's a somewhat generic name for when an adjective, like if you have an adjective coming after a noun or pronoun, it's called a post-positive adjective. But I think that's even, because that's a bit narrower. I know I might need to make a new concept like post-noun noun modifier. that's inelegant. But I think it's the concept that I want to get to because like, it comes up. Like there's object complements and appositive and post-positive adjectives. These are all different things, I think. And so even subject complements, right? She was pretty. Pretty is coming after pronoun she. So we give these things different names depending on the structure of the sentence. But there's some useful category here, I think, for thinking about this stuff. So I just have a criticism of Cocaine ideas here. How can a verbal have an object if it's not functioning as a verb?
You moved
like,
the window.
You might have like John hit the ball. You can just have John ball, right? So the verb is necessary. And you can say, well, it's just a special rule that
You moved the window and now my circle's not on the light bulb. You ruined my video.
Infinitives get to have objects, but then that's not a principle sort of analysis. It's just saying, okay, there's a special case where, for whatever reason.
Why do you keep moving it? I don't understand. It doesn't matter. It's just, I don't usually like randomly move my email windows around while I'm reading them.
We say but that's okay. So you want to avoid that sort of like unprincipled type of analysis and try and think in terms of principles more. But there's another issue, which is you need a noun to serve as an object. Like if you want to say Jane loved, and the thing you want to describe is the activity of singing, you would say to sing. Jane loved to sing. You don't say Jane loved sing, right? I mean, you could. You sound funny. Somebody might get the point, but it's not grammatical. So what do you? And the way you could resolve that maybe is by saying, well, there's two levels of attributes in a way. There's a level of attribute in terms of the structure of the whole sentence, and there's the analysis in terms of the structure of the sentence, and then there's the analysis in terms of a group of words. So you could say, in terms of the structure of the sentence, an infinitive is a noun, but in terms of its group of words that it's governing, an infinitive is a verb, and that's why it can serve the noun role. It can meet the noun requirement for being an object. I mean, for example, Jane loved to sing songs, right? Subject Jane, verb loved. Object is this whole thing, but you could say, so this is functioning as a noun relative to the rest of the sentence, but within just its, breaking it up here, within just its group of words, to sing is a verb, and then that's why it can have an object. So you can't look at it as a verb all the way down, all the way through. Like if you're looking at both the whole sentence and the group of words, you can't look at this to sing as just a verb, because then it can't be an object. What I want to do is look at it as a noun throughout, I guess. That's the approach that I'm arguing for. It's just a noun. It's derived from a verb, but that's just like an etymological detail. It's just a noun. And then the problem with that is, well, then how come it has an object? So I've at least figured out what the disagreement is, right? Like step one. So I give an example sentence, Jane loved to sing songs, and I give some ways to analyze the sentence. The first two I think are definitely wrong. The third is what I think a non's reading would be, and the fourth is my reading. So, and I try to be like fair, you know, like so say we say that for this sentence, Jane loved to sing songs, to sing is a verb. Okay. Well, that does solve a problem, which is that verbs can have objects. But verbs can't serve as an object here. Jane loved something. You know, these are cases like Jane loved Jane, verb love, what did she love? It was the object of her love. So that has a fail.
I think this post helped clarify what the issues were.
Flaw, I think. By the way, I think it's good. Like, it's good to even go through stuff even that you think is clearly wrong to make sure that you understand why. Because you might just have a superficial understanding of why it's wrong. Oh, that's just wrong because like teacher said, you don't want that. You also might have an intuitive sense of why it's wrong that has some truth to it, but you can't explain it very well. And you should be able to explain it well because you want to be able to like knock these out. You know, just like if you want to have a better understanding of some topic, you want to be able to easily criticize stuff almost without even thinking about it. Certainly without having to ponder and stroke your beard and you know, like you just want to be like, oh boom, that falls in category X, that's wrong next. So I actually had to ponder this one a bit. So I was like, wait. But you know, one thing is you don't want the grammatical analysis to like change it, and so I think that's the flaw here. Because infinitives can serve as adjectives, like they generally come after. Like, I had an example here. Right, I have some jeans to wash. Tells us which jeans. Yeah, sure, right. The singer to watch is Joyce. Tells us which singer. Yada yada, right. So you can make a position-based criticism, but I think it's more of a meaning thing. Like so. But okay, so let's start with problem solved. So this basically I'm just saying like kind of what's this.
Okay, basically, in a verbal phrase or clause as a whole, frequently has a noun or modifier role, or I guess always. But then like within the phrase or clause, the analysis, the verbal basically works as a verb. At least for infinitives. And like partially for all of them.
Things and we're like Jane loves songs. That makes sense. And you're saying okay, two things an adjective. So I mean this is faint praise. It's like well, I guess it lets us analyze it kind of. Okay, that's maybe not a good problem solved. But if it came after, like if it said Jane loves songs to sing, that would be because I think the meaning then would be like she loved the type of songs you could sing. She loves songs for the purpose for singing, like singing songs, right? So, but here it's like it's just a grammatical analysis doesn't match up. And I give an example, like I say, the songs.
Hey Justin, I don't think you ever replied to my email where I asked about why you started making videos, like a bunch of them, what changed or like what problem got solved or something. I also suggested a video on the word that in the same post because you asked for recommendations. Okay, so I guess that's in your queue.
Jane didn't love songs, she loved the activity of singing songs. The songs are loved to the extent that they are part of an activity. Actually, that's not even right. The activity of singing is the love thing. This is different than John loved the red balls, where John actually loves the balls that are red. The balls are loved per se, and not due to being part of the art of receiving the love. So I think these two are mistakes. To sing functions as a verb within its word group to sing songs, and thus can have an object, songs. On the other hand, to sing functions as a noun in relation to loved, this is the third interpretation. And can thus have, I misread this, to sing functions as a verb within its group to sing songs, thus can have an object. No, I read it right. As a have function. I should make it a bit clearer for the sentence as a whole. There we go. I'm gonna break these up. Like, confusing. Whenever you start reading something and you start like halting, break it. So under this interpretation, to sing is wearing two hats. And then it can do both jobs because it needs to function as an object, it needs to function as a thing that can have an object. So it needs to be a noun at one level and a verb be type thing at another level. And like I sort of give the I think this because wearing two hats lets it do both jobs, but then you're looking at it inconsistently. So then there's J theory. To sing function as a noun, period, full stop. And so then there's a problem there. Nouns can't take objects. John hit the ball, not John ball, right? Like hit is the thing that's taking the object. John is performing the action of hitting on the ball, but you need the verb there. This isn't anything. Songs isn't an object. The idea of infinitives having objects is an inception resulting from the verb. Songs is actually a post noun modifier. I think exploding brain is definitely a good emoji for me right now.
Yeah, I do not like this. I think it's an object. And I don't think it works well as a modifier. I think that was explained in the thread at some point. By either me or maybe it was Kate. I don't know.
So I'm going to look at some more grammar emails. So non reply to me and Kate discussing.
It's weird to hear the background noise because I'm wearing noise canceling headphones and it's making my room like super quiet. Like without them there's some background noise in my room, but with the headphones it was like silent. And then I put on Justin's video and it's like there's white noise and it sort of seems like it's coming from my room, even though I'm wearing the headphones.
this sentence make him angry. And after my arguing with Kate some, I said, consider the example, make the steel strong. I think the strength of the steel, not to make it. And I think about it, isn't angry and make him angry just an object compliment. And note, for all these, I've been at least treating it as an imperative, so there's an implied you make the steel strong, you make him angry. So that's the subject. So make is the verb. And that's all uncontroversial, as far as I know, with other people on the list. Nobody's objecting to that part. So the only controversial part is maybe how we analyze the end part. The part after the verb. The part after the main verb. I'm going to be very specific. So no one says, giving something a name doesn't mean you understand it, it just means other people have seen the same issue before and named it. It doesn't mean they understand how or why it works. Yeah, the brown-throated thrush. If you haven't, I'm not going to go into it, but if you're unfamiliar with this Feynman story, I recommend either reading it or there's a YouTube video if you prefer videos. And I can't, if you prefer videos, that's cool. I'm making videos, so I can't really hold that against you. So yeah, so I'm reading Anand's point with the background of knowledge of this Feynman point. I guess I'll go over it a little bit. So I guess Feynman's like relating the story of his father, I think, explaining the difference between knowing the name of something and knowing something. And he says to the younger Feynman, see that bird? It's a brown-throated thrush, but in Germany it's called a Hasenvogel. In Chinese they call it a chungling. Even if you know all those names, you still know nothing about the bird. You only know something about people, what they call the bird. But you just know labels, you don't understand like the bird's reproduction or whether it makes nests or how it navigates or any of the actual stuff that the bird does. So back to Anand says, the name just means it is a special case. The name just means the, quote, it is a special case, close quote, theory. It's just a fancy way of saying some verbs are special and take two objects and verb complements rather than the usual one. That's not wrong, but it leaves open the possibility that there's a better explanation. Maybe reading it as having implied infinitive to relate to two complements is better, because it gives you a full version that's clear with no special case, and clarifies how the two complements are related. I like the, I agree that we should try and understand things more, and you don't want to have lots of special cases. So, I actually read this a bit earlier, and it was in the back of my mind when I did my earlier post replying a bit about post-noun modifiers, which is my trying to link things together somewhat, and link together some special cases and something that's more like overarching. And then Anand also says, in a different email, Anand says, replying to himself, or maybe it's another Anand, you can never tell. Special cases don't normally just appear arbitrarily, they develop, on the other hand, they get developed in some other way, there's some other logic to it. It's like, well, not a big deal. I haven't ruled that out, but I haven't thought of a good alternative explanation either. It's an attempt at an alternative view, it could be kind of like in a positive, but I don't think it's very clear, explains it very well unless there's some further right. So that's sort of the direction that I was going in when I started thinking about post-noun modifiers and saying, well,
this kind of ambiguity about whether the not applies to both things in the or just the first one is common in English. Like you often just have to guess from context. Well, okay, in this case it's not love. Like the not applies to the love, so it's clear. Because the verb has to apply to both. But you can have a similar thing where it's ambiguous whether a modifier applies to a whole group or just the most adjacent thing in the group. Oh, I see.
again, like normally if something's modifying a noun, an adjective, then it comes before. So I started writing a bit about this idea I have of post-noun modifiers as a grammatical concept, and I just talk about the usual case of adjectives coming, or I should say, when something modifies a noun, normally it's an adjective and it comes before the noun, like John can bread ball, bread comes before ball, just like cheesy pizza, cheesy comes before pizza. But sometimes modifiers can come after. Post-positive adjectives also be an object complement, e.g., you need someone strong. What happened? We found another page. It was linked from the Wikipedia article on post-positive adjectives, and it gives an interesting explanation. It says, most adjectives can occur both before and after a noun. Blue sea, the sea is blue. This is an adjective. Something's an adjective here too, but it's being connected to the linking verb. The old man, the man is old. Happy children, the children are happy. Adjectives in the first position before the noun are called attributive adjectives. Those in the second position after the noun are called predicative adjectives. Notice that predicative adjectives do not occur immediately after the noun. Instead, they follow a verb. Sometimes an adjective does occur immediately after a noun, especially in certain institutionalized expressions. The governor general, the princess royal, times past. We refer to these as post-positive adjectives. Post-obligatory when an adjective modifies a pronoun. So see, this is because I found the Wikipedia article addresses this, but I found it kind of confusing the way it was explaining it. So this just says if adjective modifies a pronoun, it has to be. So I was thinking about these examples that this page gives of post-positive adjectives, and I'm not really satisfied with the explanation of the cases. And the reason that I'm not satisfied is because I can't see why it would be limited to. Like, I'm doubtful that the case, that the principle behind the case just applies to pronouns. And I was thinking about it some, and I think I may have figured it out. I don't know. So what I had was that post-positive, what makes them okay might be that they're standing for a relative clause, and so it's not really an issue of following a pronoun, but it's more an issue of whether they're standing for a relative clause. And so I talked about this first example where I came up with a full sentence out of their partial example on this webpage, and I said everyone present voted on the bill. So present is a post-positive adjective, so that's okay. But then I say now consider the sentence: the senators present voted on the bill, and that seems okay to me. It's not how I would necessarily say it. So I say it's a bit non-standard, but okay. What would be more standard is a relative clause. The senators who were present voted on the bill. So then I say I wonder if the real principle behind post-positive adjectives is that they're shortcuts for not writing out a relative clause. Their position after the noun they modify is fine because of the following fact: within the relative clause they're standing for, they were actually coming after a linking verb. So that's what makes it okay. And so consider these other examples. So I'm just going to continue developing these examples into full sentences. So those responsible will be found, right? So I look at some other examples, and the UCL page describes stuff like the shortest route possible as examples of how post-positive adjectives together with superlative attributive adjectives. But I think that the same idea that I was saying about the post-positive adjective being a sort of shortcut or shorthand representation of a relative clause applies to these as well. Like the shortest route, that was possible. The worst conditions that were imaginable. The best hotel that was available. Now you can see why you want to not necessarily write that out all the time in terms of the pithiness of the expression. Yeah, just look up pithiness to make sure I was using it right. But I think my standing for a relative clause interpretation is better because it sort of captures more and gives more of a principle. Because like the way you can think about it is if you could easily substitute a relative clause there, then a post-positive adjective should be okay. I haven't gone through tons of cases, but like I could see a limiting principle to it, which I think is if that limiting principle were to actually hold up to criticism and apply to lots of actual real-world grammar, word usage cases, it would be better than having like a list of special rules that you have to keep in mind. Oh, this is an interesting little note. It says most adjectives can freely occur in both the attributive and the predicative positions. However, a small number of adjectives are restricted to one position only. For example, the adjective main, the main reason, can only occur in the attributive position. Predicative, the reason is main. I'm going to end the video here.
It's a time to decide, do we run the technology? Does the technology run us? Are we going to continue to have elections that mean anything? Are we going to continue to think for ourselves, or are we going to just let the biggest tech companies decide who wins every election from now on? I look at search, and I look at Google News, and I see what's doing, and I see Google executives go to Congress and say that it's not manipulated, it's not political, and I'm just so sure that's not true. I think the big problem that we have today is there's an ambiguity about whether tech is neutral or whether it's biased. And, I think as someone with a PhD in computer science and 5 years of working at one of the world's top computer science companies, that I don't see any doubt that it's very politically biased.
They may be able to stop one man, but they can't stop all of us. Your courage will be contagious and will awaken a sleeping giant. Be a catalyst for change. Be brave. Do something.
I don't see any doubt that it's very politically biased.
Bias in big tech is big news. Just yesterday, the Justice Department launched an antitrust review. 2 weeks ago, I was at the White House summit to talk about big tech with the president and other influencers. Project Veritas investigations have been featured in congressional hearings in both the Senate and the House. Our momentum is growing, and today we have another Google insider, this time out of the shadows, a brave man who is breaking the wall of silence to go on camera as a current Google employee and expose a troubling truth.
My name's Greg Coppola. I'm a senior software engineer. I work on artificial intelligence and the Google Assistant. Yeah, overall, I'm very concerned to see big tech and the big media merge basically with the political party, with the Democratic Party.
Greg Coppola works in Google's New York office. He says from his insider's view, the reality of Google's political bias is undeniable.
Don't have a smoking gun. I've been coding since I was 10. I have a PhD. I have 5 years experience at Google, and I just know how algorithms are. They don't write themselves. We write them to do what we want them to do. And you can use machine learning, but even then, you can get the results of machine learning to come out the way you want them to. It's just a tool that we control. I look at search, and I look at Google News, and I see what it's doing, and I see Google executives go to Congress and say that it's not manipulated, it's not political, and I'm just so sure that's not true.
Late last year, Google CEO Sundar Pichai was one of those.
He says he's so sure that's not true instead of that they're lying. Like he avoids calling them liars directly.
Executives.
I lead this company without political bias and work to ensure that our products continue to operate that way. To do otherwise would be against our core principles and our business interests.
Google CEO Sundar Pichai goes before Congress in December, testifies under oath that the algorithms are politically unbiased. Now you work on data sets that feed certain algorithms at Google. Based upon what you know and what you've observed, are Google's algorithms unbiased?
Well, first of all, I report to Sundar, of course, and I have a great deal of respect for him. As a manager, I work on the Google Assistant, which really doesn't have a political bias. I think it's ridiculous to say that there's no bias. I think everyone who supports anything other than the Democrats, anyone who's pro-Trump or in any way deviates from what CNN and the New York Times are pushing notices how bad it is. I think maybe in his mind he can justify it through some redefinition of what the word political is. But I think if you look every day and with every query for, say, for example, Donald Trump, the Google News is really an aggregator of just a handful of sites, and all of those sites, really are vitriolically against President Trump, which I would really consider to be interference in the American election.
And the Google CEO did testify under oath that Google's algorithms are politically unbiased. Was he lying?
I mean, lying's a strong word. I definitely don't think it's true. I think what they do is somehow put an extreme bias on certain sites. Like, for example, CNN is the most commonly used source in Google News. 20% of all searches for Donald Trump, all results for Donald Trump are from CNN. And when that's the entire internet of millions of sites. CNN is something that Donald Trump and a lot of his supporters, I think, would call very fake news. So one has to wonder how it really got to be that way.
Coppola says he saw all this coming to pass during the 2016 presidential election.
Well, I started in 2014. 2014 was an amazing time to be at Google.
So this guy said he reports to Sundar. I think I saw, like, from the headlines later that maybe he got fired, which would definitely make sense after he did this video trashing his boss. I'm glad he did it. Like, I think it's good.
Talk about politics. No one talks about politics. It was just a chance to work with the best computer scientists in the world, the best facilities, the best computers, and free food. I think as the election started to ramp up, the angle that the Democrats and the media took was that anyone who liked Donald Trump was racist, even a Nazi, and that got picked up everywhere. I mean, every tech company, everybody in New York, everybody in the field of computer science basically believes that. A small number of people do work on making sure that certain news sites are promoted. And in fact, I think it would only take a couple out of an organization of 100,000, to make sure that the product is a certain way. But actually, on a day-to-day basis, I think probably a lot of people know that I like Donald Trump, but they don't really care.
Yes, Greg Coppola is a rare bird. He's a Google engineer, a New Yorker who was raised in Canada, who likes Donald Trump.
I grew up in Canada as a teenager in the 90s. It was a very free environment. I really appreciate that. I'm someone who enjoys questioning the norm. I'm someone who likes to ask, why something's happening. And I think we should continue to teach kids to do that. And I think the system, the way that Google works, the way the Democrats work, the way all their allies in the media work, they really don't want a lot of questioning of anything. They really just want to call people names to get them to a certain line. And I think it's a harmful, dark view of society. And I would like to see tech that just supports human freedom, free thought.
According to Coppola, big tech's political agenda is dangerous in large part because it is hidden.
I think we had a long period of 10 years, let's say, where we had search and social media that didn't have a political bias. And we kind of got used to the idea that the top search result at Google is probably the answer. And Robert Epstein, who testified before Congress last week, looked into it and showed that, the vast majority of people think that something is high rated on Google search than another story that would be more important and more correct. And, we haven't had time to absorb the fact that tech might have an agenda. I mean, it's something that we're starting to talk about now. That's why I'm talking to you.
Adding weight to Coppola's concern was the Senate testimony of Dr. Robert Epstein, highly respected researcher, scientist, and interestingly a Democrat. He told the Senate Judiciary Committee that Google and big tech's political bias could have a significant impact in the upcoming presidential election.
And looking forward, if I understood your testimony correctly, you said in subsequent elections, Google and Facebook and Twitter and big tech's manipulation could manipulate as many as 15 million votes in a subsequent election?
In 2020, if all these companies are supporting the same candidate, there are 15 million votes on the line that can be shifted without people's knowledge and without leaving a paper trail for authorities to trace.
But in any event, most people's job is not political and doesn't involve politics. I mean, there's a vast number of systems, and a lot of them have nothing to do with politics, like processing natural language. In fact, I would say that Google actually, in terms of the assistant,
That's, like, somewhat silly. Like, it's not giving the voters enough responsibility. If they choose to believe all this stuff that they're told, and then they vote accordingly, they are in some sense voting to be sheep in an authoritarian society that controls information. Like, they're not being dissidents, they're going along with that, and even though they have the opportunity to vote against it, they're not. Like, they're okay with it, I guess, in some sense. So in some sense, voting Democrat makes sense for them. Like, the kind of people who can be manipulated so much just because Google doesn't make it trivially easy to find contrary information. Like, you can, if you actually try to look for contrary information, you can still find it. Like, the censorship isn't making the information unavailable, it's making it slightly harder to find. So that if you're, like, really passive, you won't find it, but if you actually look for it, you will find it. So, it's separating the kind of person who would fit into a society where they are not free.
it's taking much longer to build the assistant than it would otherwise need to, because there is such respect at Google for privacy and for users.
Like, what do you need freedom for if you're so passive that you don't look for other opinions and you just believe the first thing you're told by the authorities? Like, what does that person actually care about freedom? And then their voting represents that they don't care about their freedom. Like, the problem with those 15 million people is not primarily Google's bullshit. It is that they're, like, stupid people with bad values. They're not intellectually curious and so on. And in which case, by the way, in my opinion, they probably shouldn't vote. Like, if you don't care about the election, if you don't follow politics, just don't vote. I think what Google does wrong is there's some measure of fraud involved. And the fraud ought to be dealt with. But there's a lot of people the fraud doesn't actually matter for, because Google could publicly say that they're biased. They could admit it, so it wouldn't be fraud anymore. And then a lot of people would just keep using Google and not change. Some people would change, but others wouldn't.
and I hope you leave this in, and I hope you realize that there's really, I would say as an insider at Google, there's a lot of interest put in taking care of people's data. And conversely, it means that the list of reputations of mappings from news site to some number representing their credibility is probably something I can access.
So why did you decide to come to Project Veritas?
Well, I think that you guys have done a lot of good reporting on a variety of topics, and I think some of the reporting with Google, some people might not be too happy about, but overall, I do think it's a credible news organization. Well, I think it was a really important point in human history. I think for a while we had tech that was politically neutral. Now we have tech that really, first of all, is taking sides in a political contest, which I think anytime you have big corporate power merging with political parties can be dangerous. And I think more generally, we have to just decide now that we kind of are seeing tech use its power to manipulate people. It's a time to decide, do we run the technology? Does the technology run us? I think the big problem that we have today is there's an ambiguity about whether tech is neutral or whether it's biased. And I think as someone with a PhD in computer science and 5 years of working at one of the world's top computer science companies, that I don't see any doubt that it's very politically biased. And I know not everybody is a programmer, so I just want to explain it to the non-programmers. Just the same way that someone who doesn't know about wine might need to be told by a sommelier, or the way someone who doesn't know about cars might need to be told by a mechanic. What's really going on? I just want to say to all the non-programmers that I really don't buy the idea that big tech is politically neutral, and I think we need to start incorporating that into whatever strategy we use to have a democracy going forward. Are we going to continue to have elections that mean anything? Are we going to continue to think for ourselves, or are we going to just let the biggest tech companies decide who wins every election from now on?
Google did not respond to a request for comment on this story. Greg Coppola may lose his job that he loves and is well paid to do, but he came forward because he believes the American people need to know the truth about what is going on at Google. At Project Veritas, we are committed to telling these stories, to emphatically protecting those who wish to remain in the shadows, but at the same time, leak us documents and information. And for those brave insiders who do step into the light, we praise you. Remember, this is about the preservation of democracy, but that requires brave people, citizens.
So I started writing a reply regarding grammar to Kate, and I thought I'd start recording. So Anon had said, Justin proposed reading make him angry as make angry him, angry being an adjective. That is what angry as adjective means, that's wrong. And then I said, I'd given a long explanation. And my conclusion was that I think maybe some cases of post-noun adjectives serving as adverbs are basically shorthand adverbial prepositional phrases. The rest of the adverbial prepositional phrase is dropped because the really interesting part of something, like in an angry way, is the angry part. So you keep that and drop the rest. And thus, an adjective can seem to modify a verb in cases where the adjective is standing for an adverbial prepositional phrase. And I guess in terms of this seem to, the issue is, I don't quite know how to think about this because an adjective cannot modify a verb. But if it's shorthand, it can. If it's shorthand for something which can, then, well, you see, that's the analysis gets a little stuck in terms of, like, I think you have to say it to be really precise. And that's actually basically, I get into that. But first, Kate. So Kate had said, this seems like an explanation on why I wanted angry to serve as an adverb in some way and modify make. Is that what you think now? I.e., do you think angry is serving as an adverb? As it's basically shorthand for an adverbial prepositional phrase? And I say, being super precise, I'd say angry is an adjective, and I'm going to add, which cannot modify a verb, but it is standing, since I'm emphasizing that, I'll emphasize it in text, standing for an implied adverbial prepositional phrase. You'll note that I made angry an adjective in my implied adverbial prepositional phrase. And what I mean by that is, I said, when you make him, for translating, you make him angry into a sentence that makes my theory or interpretation clear, I said, when you make him in an angry way. Angry is a modifying way. I say, you can look at sentence in various ways. In various ways.
The purpose was a post-mortem, and if you try to think of reasons, you'll find out whether you have any or not, which will give you information about your vague intuition that you were post-morteming. It would be a relevant thing to do. It would help you better understand your thinking on the topic that you're trying to introspect and analyze about.
Like you can just go labeling parts of speech. For example, you can just go labeling parts of speech. That might be a reasonable exercise in various cases. Like for someone using English. For a parts of speech labeling exercise, angry is an adjective, full stop. But it is standing for or representing this implied adverbial. So in terms of how the sentence is operating grammatically, I'd say make is being modified by this implied adverbial, which angry is representing. And then I say, so Kate asks, what about the object complement idea? And I looked at object complement stuff again, and the examples seem pretty different than make him angry. For example, I prefer my coffee black. Black is clearly talking about a quality of the coffee. What kind of coffee? The blanket kept the pig warm. Rewritten, this would be something like the blanket maintained the pig in a state of warmness. I like that rewriting. So I think that's clearly talking about the pig's condition. So for make him angry, the OC, meaning object complement, interpretation might not make sense. It doesn't seem to make sense. Yeah, and Kate's basically saying, object complement seems like a really broad question. And particularly, even the better question is like do we need this categorization? Does it help us? Is it useful? I responded to my criticism by saying she thought it would add too much emphasis. So that would make sense if it's adding more emphasis. I'm not quite sure I agree because I'm not sure I have a clear principle of how I thought about using M dashes, but I almost think I could have been using them wrong, obviously, but like the apparent parentheses seem like the stuff inside parentheses in a way seems more separate to me, which is like which sounds like more emphasis in a way. Like I think of M dashes as when you need to put something in kind of an aside, kind of a parenthetical, but you don't want to quite interrupt the flow as much. So even this.
No, what you want there is commas. Commas are parentheses that don't interrupt the flow as much. It's like a semi-parenthetical.
Example, the information in your spreadsheet, numbers, formulas, and text is stored themselves. This seems almost like an aside to me. Now, obviously, this is more of a, the thing I'm talking about is more of a style thing than a clear-cut grammatical thing. So I think it can be harder to figure out, which is why I'm talking about it, because it's tricky, and I want to figure out writing style stuff more. As far as I know, and I found several websites which said
M dash is totes cool. Grammarly says M dashes can save the day. Another punctuation would be awkward. For instance, M dashes can replace parentheses at the end of a sentence or when multiple commas appear in a parenthetical phrase. And it gives an end of sentence
Oh
example.
yeah, I turned it down for the Veritas video because they have louder volume than Justin. But I forgot to turn it back up.
In parentheses. So, and it's what else does it say? It says M dashes are more emphatic than colons. Well, that's colons. That's different. I really care about the parentheses comparison. Who's grammarist? M dashes set apart parenthetical phrases or clauses in a sentence. See, this is the
Veritas really wants your attention and to be in your face. It's similar to how on TV, I believe a lot of advertisements are louder than the TV show, so that when the commercials come on, it'll like try to grab attention.
This is the explanation that I like. So of course it's the right one, right? That's a joke. That's not a good principle of approaching questions. But perhaps a useful way to think of the M dash is as a pause of parentheses with somewhat more emphasis than a comma and somewhat less emphasis than parentheses. Yes, that's so Microsoft is wrong as usual. And this, yeah, here are a few examples. Okay, let's look at the examples.
So what I think dashes do is they interrupt the normal grammar. They're the biggest interruption. They are for asides that are like you want attention to, whereas parentheses are for asides that you want to be like part of the background. They're like minor side notes.
Steely Dan's title track FM.
And also dashes have the most power to just go absolutely anywhere in a sentence, regardless of normal sentence flow.
Justly forgotten. Oh, this is a long. Oh, yeah, this is music writing often. Entertainment writing, you get kind of long. Let's look at another example. I don't like that one. Since 2007, the consensus of the economic establishment, bankers, policymakers, CEOs, stock analysts, pundits, has been catastrophically wrong. And like this would be weird in parentheses to me. Like I would default, but this is a bit different because this is a list. I don't know. Both Dagan and Diskin oppose military action against Iran unless all other options, primarily international diplomatic pressure and perhaps sabotage, have been exhausted. These all seem like things that are renaming the thing that comes immediately before. So is that the principle to these? Oh, here's a good one. In other cases, M dashes can go where parentheses would be too strong a break in a sentence. Oh, but it's the same sort of the president's nephew, son of his late brother. Yeah, it's another thing that's renaming the. So this actually made me less certain of my use of M dashes. I started off like, oh yeah, this sounds right. Now I look at the actual examples and I'm like, now I'm extremely suspicious. So Anon rewrites make him angry into and form where angry is clearly serving as just an adjective. And he says in this rewrite, angry is clearly an adjective modifying him, but this doesn't work, it's an incomplete sentence. Make that angry person what? Something's missing. For example, make angry him sad, make angry him get a job, make angry him great again. Those are complete sentences. Also, if angry were an adjective, then it would be optional. You could just delete it pretty harmlessly. So I agree with this so far. The rewritten sentences do, or the example sentences do seem incomplete. Or do seem complete. Whereas
some of the volume on the video is like really low. I was watching the sound levels in OBS. It's because there's variation in Justin's voice. Like he talks more softly and more loudly at other times. I think some of my videos might have that problem too.
make angry him is incomplete. So then, also, if angry were an adjective, then it would be optional. You could just delete it pretty harmlessly. Modifiers are optional in general. An exception is an adjective that's a complement after a linking verb. Another exception is no or not. I agree with reading an implied be. For example, make America be great again. The reason you can imply, so this goes to the core of part of my issue. The reason you can imply a whole bare infinitive in this case is because that's how the word make works. It's standard, well-established English. It's not just implying an arbitrary ad hoc word. That was my concern. It's following a normal pattern. So I guess that your points about incompleteness and the optionality of modifiers also apply to my implied adverbial phrase interpretation. I think also then, Anon continues, I think the alternative interpretation, rather than an implied word like being, is that the word make takes two obviously built directly into make. I think that's what I was trying to do in my head without quite realizing it. I was trying to jam some Venus into make. The pattern is like make xy, and you can say it means make x by, but you can also say that make means to transform x into y. Right. I was thinking the specific additional verb I was trying to jam into make was like elicit or something, I think. Something along those lines. I might have said on a previous video. Anyway, an advantage of reading an implied be is that it fits the standard English convention of verbs having only one object or complement. I don't mind compound objects like dogs and cats, which are harmless, because in that case the object is a single group. There aren't really two objects. So I just asked, okay, so to be clear, is your reading of, actually let me just say,
It's getting harder and harder for people who make wild claims like the ones you just heard to win elections on substance, but coming up they may not have to. America's largest tech companies are overwhelmingly in the Democratic column and are afraid to use their power for ideological purposes. Tonight we have a remarkable guest joining us. He's a current Google employee who says his company is far from politically neutral. Greg Hopwood is a current Google engineer and he joins us tonight. Greg, thanks very much for coming on.
Hey,
so
thanks,
you, first of all, I'm grateful that you're here. I'm surprised that you're willing to come on and speak to us live, but we're thankful. You're telling us that Google is what they claim not to be, which is partisan and political. Is that correct?
Well, here's what I would say. I would say that as a user of various tech products, I notice a lot of the same biases that a lot of people have been concerned about in terms of the end result. And
yes.
The one thing I just want to communicate to anyone maybe who isn't used to launching software products into production, that basically any software launch reflects the outcome of thousands of human decisions. If you make different human decisions, you get a different result. And so if you see a result, if you see a resulting end product that seems to encode a bias of one sort or another, there must have been that bias in the process that produced the end result. Because like I say, different human decisions that went into the process would produce completely different results.
So this gets to the core business at Google and the core question about Google, which is Google search. And so all human information essentially flows through this portal. And if you ask Google, and I have, how is it sorted? They will say by an algorithm. And the suggestion is that it's unbiased because the machine is doing it. And you're saying that that's not true.
Right. In fact, in my experience, as algorithms get more complicated and more advanced, they only have that only means that they have more human decisions going into them. So there's actually more opportunities for human beings to influence the final product.
So this is a meaningful, this is not an academic conversation because we've got a presidential campaign on the horizon. And again, all American voters get the bulk of their information about everything, including candidates, on the internet, and Google, of course, is the portal to the internet. So do you think that the biases you're describing will influence the outcome of the election? How do they not?
I think it is going to. If people aren't able to think critically about all the information that they're being given, especially if there's kind of this illusion that maybe somehow technology exists in a world that's completely apart from humans, that somehow you can create a computer that will think for itself and be free of any human biases, then people could be easily misled or manipulated.
Will you be, so you're basically saying that Google's a liberal company and its liberalism will tilt the presidential election. Are you going to be punished for coming on our show to say this?
I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm on administrative leave at the moment, and I'm not sure about the future.
Okay. Well, I hope you'll come back and tell us what happens. Greg Hopwood, thank you very much for that.
Thanks very much.
On administrative leave already. Yeah, anyway, speaking of biasing elections, yesterday I retweeted the stuff about Tulsi Gabbard, who is so she was trending worldwide with 200,000 plus tweets, but she was completely being censored from the US trending on Twitter. And Assad was trending because she brought it up in the debate, apparently, but she wasn't trending in the US. So there's complaints about that. Kamala Harris Destroyed was ranking at #1, which is Tulsi related, but Tulsi wasn't trending. Because she, there's like a 2-minute clip where she attacks Harris that people are really impressed with. In my opinion, it's not that hard to attack the Democrats because they all have such huge fucking glaring weaknesses, but people liked it. If you want to see the clip, I don't think I actually retweeted it, but Stukio retweeted like the clip like twice, I think, yesterday, so you could probably find it. Also, I mean, I think it's all over Twitter. But she accuses Harris of suppressing evidence that would have vindicated someone in a death penalty case, and basically like doing a terrible job for the people when she was Attorney General. And I think there was some other main point too. But yeah, Gab was tweeting about it as well. Tulsi scrubbed from Twitter trends. Hours later, still scrubbed. Anyway, so that's like literally the Democrat debates happen, and then one of the candidates does well against another candidate, and then Twitter is hiding that information from their trending stuff. So fuck that.
So I started writing an email about grammar, and I thought I'd start recording. And the specific issue is this sentence: I do need to chill out. And I was wondering about that sentence. And I was wondering if to chill out was an infinitive verb, or like if this is all an infinitive, like one infinitive, or if perhaps out is serving as some kind of modifier. And I found it described as a phrasal verb. And so I was like, okay, well, it's a phrasal verb, so that settles it. And then I was
I said that basically to Elliot off list, and he said it interprets fine as non-phrasal. Calling it phrasal is like looking up a name or something and being like, someone said it's named this, therefore it's resolved. Which that's true. That's what I was doing. You're just accepting its arbitrary convention. I agree, and I think that's an approach a lot, where I look up the name of something and think I've understood it. But anyways, with regards to the substantive issue, to chill out does seem like a whatever a phrasal verb is, or at least it did initially to me.
So I looked this up, and if you look at enough definitions of out, you can find one where it works, just as a regular word.
Because, and I think the reasoning was, to chill is like, so, I mean, there's one meaning of to chill, which is like to chill or drink, right? That's not relevant. To chill can mean like to hang out. You chill with someone. Oh, but this one, so just look up dictionary.com. I've got a bunch of dictionaries here too. But just for example, it says to calm down, relax, often followed by out. On this site, somebody's asking about chilling versus hanging out, and they say, first, I don't think we can, so, what's their question? If it's a weekend, I have no plans, so I just stay home, drink some wine, watch some TV, enjoy the weekend. When my friend calls me and asks what I'm doing, I reply, I'm just chilling at home, I'm just hanging out. First, I don't think we can use hang out because there's no one with me. Well, I guess you do generally hang out with someone, so I see that. And then he asked, but is chill out used to mean spending time doing something relaxing? Well, like this is chilling. This is asking about chill out, so it seems like he sort of lost the plot of his own question, because even if they're equivalent, even if chilling and chilling out can be equivalent in meaning, they're different expressions, so. Somebody replies, to chill is to relax and do nothing in particular. Certainly nothing that might be construed as work. It doesn't necessarily mean you're alone, but most often it is used that way. To hang out can really mean a variety of things, from staying home alone to going to a club with friends. Yeah, if I wanted to say slang for, like, oh, I just spent the weekend at home, I would just say, like, took it easy or something. You know, like, if I was just trying to say I was relaxing, I would say I hung out. It's begging a question, just like, hang out with who? I hang out with my friend. That would be legitimate. So, or perhaps chill and chill out equivalent expressions, and maybe people, like maybe you had hang out and chilling, and people decided to make the variation chill out, but it's basically, there's no real difference. But then, if you have a modifier, okay, now I think I'm sort of finding the thread of my thought here. If you have a modifier, it should modify, meaning like it should be adding some information. Even the articles like a and add information. So if chilling and chilling out are equivalent expressions, then that would seem to go more towards like a phrasal verb interpretation, where it's just like, well,
they're approximately equivalent just because culture just decided to use words that way. It's sort of like throwing in a very, and it doesn't really change the meaning very much in some cases. But I think it does have a meaning, and that's probably where it came from, is because there was a meaning. But then over time, people just got so used to it that it lost its intensity.
Or you could call it a phrasal verb. You could just call it an idiomatic expression, I guess, because that's essentially, like, chill out equals relax, basically. So the out, chill equals relax equals chill out. So then the out, if like that follows, then the out isn't really doing anything. So to say it's a modifier, I'm not really convinced of that. Like, I think it might be a bit different. It's like to hang. To hang is, I mean, you can hang a hat, you can hang a person, but to hang out makes it, like, it actually changes, like, adding that out changes the meaning of to hang significantly, whereas
the choppiness of the silence removal is pretty annoying here, FYI. It's still a ways back in the videos.
It seems like adding the out to chill doesn't. But then, is it, if you add a modifier and instead of modifying it makes it into a completely different meaning, is that still a modifier, like how I'm thinking about it? Like, it's not even, it's like stronger than negation. It's just, because like negation is a negation of the original thing. But if you add a word and you're just like, you're talking from, like, you know, one thing to a completely different topic, is that a modifier? Although I guess to hang, right. So this says, this gives idle or loiter for a hang, as a down the boys hanging around pool rooms. Making the acquaintance of quiet gentlemen hanging about the fringes of tourist parties. To spend time idly, especially with a particular person or group of people. Hangout, usually used with, here's a video called Plants vs. Zombies Chill and Hangout Stream. Okay, so I guess, right, so this definition makes sense to me as a definition of hang, as in hangout or spending time with people, right? So to spend time idly, especially with a particular group of people, this is for just hang out, usually used with, and it's an intransitive verb. So you know the difference there. Like a transitive verb of, an example of a transitive use of hang would be to make a turn while driving. Like you hang a left, but you don't hang a friend, or else he's not much of a friend. You hang out with friends. So if you hang out with friends, then what is with friends telling you? Well, it's telling you the situation in which you hang out, how you hang out, who you hang out with, but it's about hanging out. So out is really modifying. Like if I just say I ate, you don't know, like you know that I ate, but not much more. But if I say I ate out, then but still the same expression. Like the meaning of 8, the basic meaning of 8 hasn't been changed, but it's been the location of the action has been somewhat specified, at least in that you know that I didn't eat at home, or maybe like not at a friend's house, but like at a restaurant or somewhere outside where one gets food. But if it's just like an equivalent kind of thing, then I'm not sure how much of a modifier it really is, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way, because, like, I guess the word out does reduce some ambiguity somewhat, even if you could write equivalent expressions involving hang that don't involve out. Once you have the out there, it is telling you something. Like, you think of, like, I was hanging. Right, so imagine you're reading sentences that start with each of these respectively, and you get to the end point of my writing here. I was hanging with. Now, I think that typically I would expect, like, I would start to hear this as slang, like I was hanging with my buddies or something. Like that's my expectation as to what comes next. But it could be, I was hanging with a dagger clenched in my teeth as I clung to the rock face. Like it could be like some sort of dramatic in the middle of the action start to a novel or something. Whereas with this is less ambiguous as to what to expect compared to this one is less ambiguous compared to this one. So out is doing something. So it's a modifier. That was a long walk to that conclusion. Boy. Okay. So I guess one thing is that like each modifier answers a question, reduces some ambiguity, gives you some detail, but the detail being offered, the ambiguity being reduced can be very subtle. Like, if you think of a modifier like the red ball, like red in the red ball, that's pretty clear what it's telling you. Whereas sometimes you have something like hanging out where it's part of something that sounds like sort of a standard expression, and so you're not really like it's hard to pin down. It's harder to pin down what it's telling you than in the case of the red ball, like what out is telling us here. But it is telling us something. It is, I mean, even being an indicator of a standard phrase is a sort of like part of the standard phrase is a sort of ambiguity reduction. Although I guess that logic might apply to.
You're challenging the media gatekeepers and the corporate censors to bring the facts straight to the American people.
He released secret tapes that he had made with current and former Twitter employees.
One strategy is shadow ban so that you have ultimate control. The idea of shadow ban is that you ban someone but they don't know they ban because they keep posting but no one sees their content. So they just think that no one's engaging with their content when really no one's seeing it.
In the orientation of Facebook, they said the number one rule of Facebook is don't talk about Facebook.
I saw things going on that I personally found to be troubling. This is Danny Ben David, a software engineer. In the leaked documents our insider gave us, we came across a back-end view of Mike Cernovich's page. On it, we could see Ben David running an action called Action Deboost Live Distribution. Deboosting is a method of suppressing distribution. This occurs because prompts such as share this video are disabled. Where did you see this appear? On whose pages?
I would see it appear on several different conservative pages.
In one slide from Yamamoto's deck, he writes, trolls are involved in many destructive behaviors on Facebook. Yamamoto then lists one example writing, red-pilling normies to convert them to their worldview, with a link to a YouTube video by Lauren Chen called Why Social Justice is Cancer. A whistleblower comes to us inside of a company called Pinterest, which is a big tech company. It's a $13 billion company. What are we looking at here? It seems to be a bunch of XXX and porn websites, and then there appears to be the live action website. What are we looking at here?
You're looking at pins with domains that are blocked. Any domain on the porn block list, you can't make a pin like that.
And one of the documents you uncovered and sent to Project Veritas was thousands of pages long.
It contains offensive terms, porn terms, anything that we don't want to show up on search. There are a lot of terms about Christians, Bible verses, that really don't seem like offensive terms. That typically means that they're considered sensitive, beyond brand unsafe, is in severity level 1. I work at Pinterest.
Why did you decide to do this?
Because if I didn't, who would?
What came out yesterday with regard to Google was astonishing.
They're not an objective source of information. They are a highly biased political machine that is bent on never letting somebody like Donald Trump come to power again.
This is a confidential document, correct?
Yes. In fact, if you brought this up without the document, they would say this is a conspiracy theory.
Wow. So then they wouldn't admit this publicly?
We would never admit this publicly.
In this document, it says, in some cases, it may be appropriate to take no action if the system accurately affects current reality, while in other cases, it may be desirable to consider how we might help society reach a more fair and equitable state via product intervention. What do they mean by that?
So what they want to do is they want to act as gatekeepers between the user and the content that they're trying to access. And so they're going to come in, they're going to filter the content, and they're going to say, actually, we don't want to give the user access to that information because it's going to create an outcome that's undesirable to us. And so we need to fix that. We need to start policing our users because we don't like to have an outcome like that. We don't want to have an outcome like that happen again.
It's time to decide, do we run the technology? Does the technology run us? Are we going to continue to have elections that mean anything? Are we going to continue to think for ourselves, or are we going to just let the biggest tech companies decide who wins every election from now on? I look at search, and I look at Google News, and I see what it's doing, and I see Google executives go to Congress and say that it's not manipulated, it's not political, and I'm just so sure that's not true. I think the big problem that we have today is there's an ambiguity about whether tech is neutral or whether it's biased. And, I think as someone with a PhD in computer science and 5 years of working at one of the world's top computer science companies, that I don't see any doubt that it's very politically biased.
Thanks to the insiders who reached out to us with their stories. We know we're big tech companies. We really stand on the issues. Remember, it takes a lot of courage to risk everything and actually step into the
More grammar.
So I wrote a post in which I theorized that post-positive adjectives, or at least some subset of post-positive adjectives, actually I should back up. So Wikipedia defines a post-positive adjective as an attributive adjective that is placed after the noun or pronoun that it modifies. And what is an attributive adjective? An adjective that usually comes before the noun it modifies without a linking verb. Okay. So it gives go to sleep little baby as an example, little. But you could say he is little, and then that would be a linking verb. In those tender mornings.
you could say the scene. I mean, I guess there's some. Okay, anyway, I guess attributive adjective not really central. I was just curious. But I don't know about this definition. Anyway, this contrasts with prepositive adjectives, which come before the noun or pronoun. And then the site I found, UCL, which is University College London, which is like a fancy school, said we refer to these as postpositive adjectives. Postposition is obligatory when the adjective modifies a pronoun. It's an example of an example. And I said, well, you could say the present everyone, but you could say, I guess you could say the present senders. What was I trying to do? You could say the responsible criminals. So anyway, I was wondering if the actual principle behind postpositive adjectives is that the shortcuts for not writing out a relative clause. And the example I came up with was, because the sender's present voted on the bill, the meaning of the sentence, put in what has been omitted, and just use standard grammatical categorizations, such as relative clause. Well, so like, I mean, we don't even really, like, postpositive adjective is just, like, it's not great. It's overly, the way I would think about it, I think, is if, in some cases where noun that is modifying, there's an explanation for that. Just write omitted and just use standard grammatical categorizations. Yeah, I mean, you can do all that. Like, again, it depends on what you're trying to do, but if you're trying to figure out, like, if you're curious, like, why, and you want to understand why, using that terminology, we can talk about the issue in terms of standard. So then Anne replies, well, Anne replies and says, or we could just call them adjectives. I don't think we need to label adjectives differently depending on whether they are before or after the nouns they modify. Yeah, I agree we don't need a special label if we want to talk about the issue.
I'm gonna play a bit of one of my own videos. I just want to compare audio and see how I sound. Yeah, I got what you mean. You just have the infinitive form of be, not the present tense or something. No, present tense is. So maybe be alone is clear, but it comes up with other verbs. Or the infinitive form of the present tense can get mixed up, like sing. Okay, well, it doesn't have a bunch of background noise. Is how I normally do this kind of analysis. So that's a minor. It sounds okay. It doesn't have a bunch of background noise.
We can just explain it simply. Gee, why are there cases where adjectives come after the noun they modify instead of before? What's going on when that happens? Note that adjectives that come before nouns could also be replaced by relative clauses. All politics and other matters sovereign. This is fancy, but this use of thus basically means like therefore, comma, consider, and then the thing that follows. Like therefore you consider, like the imperative, and then all this stuff. Yeah, that's fine. It gave me pauses on it. Where's a verb? What happened here? Is this?
Hey, all you fans out. Hey, all you pimps and players. I wanted to show you, when you look up Rucka on YouTube, right underneath my newest song, we got this old gem from a few years ago by one KSI. Now, it shows up now when people search Rucka, so a lot of the comments are none too pleased with Mr. KSI. Fuck you, KSI. No, it wasn't fucking amazing. Fucking sucks. He's referring to this part.
Ah, that was fucking amazing. Anyway.
No, it wasn't, says UL Work. KSI is so slow. Yeah, he's pretty slow. This isn't rap. Pretty slow. He sings racist song about every single race. White, Asian, Mexican, black. It isn't racist. It's literally pointing out stereotype man's problem. We as society face. You look kind of dumb dude. Wow, a dude who purposely made a cringe video as a joke was not as cringy as KSI trying to react to it. Jesus Christ. I don't think you could ever end Rucka, says Jonathan Castillo. I think history has proven that correct. Nothing Asian, bitch. You're not good, bro. Dude, KSI, you're BS. Rucka is way better than this dude. I'm sorry, who the fuck is KSI? Exactly. This motherfucker thinks all I do is react to video. He says he reacts to the video.
Oh my god, this motherfucker thinks all I do is react to videos.
He says as he reacts to this video. Oh, checkmate, bitch. Like if Rucka is a dick. Yeah, I got one like. Rucka is the only white man with an N-word pass on YouTube. To this day, Rucka is still trolling KSI's fanbase. What fanbase? Am I right? This is what started this, says Omar. What he's referring to there is the whole diss track trend that took place around that time, shortly after. KSI would diss this guy would diss that guy would diss KSI. Friendships were broken. Families were broken. To this day, just a few months ago, we got KSI's brother dissing KSI on YouTube. This was where it started. The interesting thing is, this whole incident got me to actually start watching things on YouTube. I never used to watch anything on YouTube. This was kind of like the golden era of commentary on YouTube. We had Leafy in full swing. PewDiePie was... That sent me down a particular path that I otherwise might have not gone down, talking to certain people and writing certain things and discussing certain topics. So it sent me down a certain path, and we can thank KSI for that, I guess. When the diss track monster was born. KSI, you got trolled hard. KSI triggered. 235. Did you not get that joke?
Hey guy! Not even my video. He literally picked the wrong black guy.
That was the right black guy. Like Rucka says, me being racist, that has never been proven. Very true. Very true. The burden of proof is on the state. So yeah, interesting how the algorithm kind of sets things up that way. So if you're ever thinking of maybe bullying somebody over the internet, just think someday your video might show up when their fans look them up, and then you're gonna get some negative attention that is not the kind of attention you're gonna want. I remember when RUC would make Rucka Ali first show up. It was like probably 2011. I was like, yeah, find the corner of that market. So Rucka. Now the top result here is an apology to Rucka. This guy, Thunderfoot is his name, and he mistakenly accused me of pulling a gun on somebody because he thought I looked like somebody else. So he posted this video apologizing. Tonight, got KSI again, and a lot more great videos. I remember when Go Cops first got 4 million views. The first time it was around 2010, and it was like, whoa, 4 million views. It was like, whoa, 4 million views. Like YouTube was a much smaller website. It was a much bigger deal back then to get 4 million views. Now I hate to say it, but search Rucka Ali. Oh, that's nice. Top 2 results. Some nice long conversations. Got KSI again. That's pretty good. A lot of popular hits. I love the video that I never actually chose the thumbnail for, so it's like a random part of the video. Oh, just hit 50 million views on this upload. Just hit 50 million views. I feel bad for knowing the whole lyrics. I'm not the racist, I hate everyone equally. Look at what the black says, of course, you get KSI reacting to the video originally. Oh good, got some ads. There's no TikTok stand behind this.
It's not fair, man. I'll do it. Throw insults at every fucking day of my life. Is that fucking serious?
Yeah, let's move on from that. Let's look up what's KSI's brother up to. Oh, trying KFC. Anyway, guys, the lesson here should be, if you're a big person on the internet and you think that it might be fun to bully somebody and be racist towards them, just think, one day, your video might show up and they search for that guy, and then you're going to get some comments that you're not going to like. So, KSI, I hope you're happy with the life you chose, because I'm not. Until next time, this has been Looking It Up on the iPad. Peace out.
It's like you don't want to multiply terminology beyond necessity, and like the post-positive stuff. You have to think about how to decompress, like, you know, because it's like post-positive adjective. It's like, okay, well, you can figure out what adjective means pretty fast. And you have to be like post-positive. Oh, they're talking about position, and post means after. So then, like it's a mental process. You don't have to do that each time, but it's worth it to use an extra word or two, and then not have to have somebody like like unzip your strange term into their brain. You know, I think. So here's the thing. So reading Kate's email, she's replying to Anne about this terminological thing, and Kate says the word, meaning the present in the senator's present.
Wait, Justin disabled his clock? Like, I have a clock. And Justin's video does not have a clock? The clock is one of the menu bar icon things that I never considered disabling. I did put it in 24-hour time on my laptop so it'd take up less space because I was running out of space, but I think Justin is on his iMac for this.
She says the word is certainly functioning as an adjective, and yes, but it's so in its under the theory that I played out in its original situation, the word is functioning as an adjective within relative clause. But it's so I guess this is the issue I've been struggling with so much is if you drop that relative clause, the rest of it, and you just have present. So then do you say that present is modifying senators? Because like I guess the relative clause itself.
You wanted privacy for what time of day you made your video?
Is modifying senators, but present wasn't. But present is standing for the relative clause. So do you impute the relationship of the thing that the individual word is standing for to just the word and the word that's being modified when you drop the rest of the clause? Because remember, like under my theory, I should just paste this so I have it up.
Why?
Under my theory, present is modifying who. So if we drop that, so we go up to this one, then it's like, does the dropping this stuff permit us to then point to the modification arrow, like, because the, maybe I should diagram this. Right, but like, since the senator's present voted on the bill, do we have to? Should we say it's really the?
If you think maybe you should diagram it, I'm pretty sure you should diagram it. Diagramming's not very hard. It's quick, and then you go to diagram, and it makes things clearer.
Analyze that.
Like, especially early on when you haven't made like 50+ diagrams in the past, just err on the side of actually making the diagram and seeing if it helps or not. And then in the future, you'll have a better idea of when you need it.
I would just say senators is being modified by present because there's. So she thinks calling it an adjective is fine, like meaning like the word meaning like present. She says, however, I still think it's useful to. So Anne had said earlier, and she had pointed out that where is it? I guess this now it's this one. Right. The red ball, the ball that is red. Right. You can rewrite lots of adjectives to come in a relative clause after the noun. But what I think is interesting, so like with the senator's present voted on the bill, I think the relationship between this, like what I'm calling this implied relative clause and the adjective is clarifying, and also like if everything kind of stays in the same place, you just get stuff dropped. You could also put present before, like the present senators. So it's not the case that like present can kind of float around, and we can say, well, if it's before, let me start doing this out.
Oh, I see. Like how much silence got cut out.
This is not how I would write it, but I think it's fine. I think it's sensible. I think it's reasonably grammatical sounding English. I just like consistency. Okay, now okay, so maybe now we're starting to get somewhere. So it seems like there's a few cases. There are cases where the adjective has to come before the noun, unless it's in. Well, right, where an adjective has to come before a noun, unless it's in an explicit relative clause after the noun, in which case it's not even really, because the clause is explicit, it's not even really modifying the noun anymore. It's part of a clause which is, but it's not really modifying directly. It's a clause that's modifying directly. So for example, all right, so I wrote some stuff. So what I say is, there's a few different cases. The default is that adjectives must come before the nouns, or just nouns, if they were to modify that noun from within the subject of the sentence. Meaning, well, I say, lots of adjectives can modify subjects from the predicate if they're connected by a linking verb, but that's beyond the scope of what I'm talking about here. So, these are examples of the standard thing. The red ball is pretty, the cheesy pizza was hot. All that is red is pretty. Red is modifying that, not ball directly. Exercise routine. So my reading is,
wait, what?
Court Martial, heir apparent, knight errant, brothers Grimm, professor emeritus. And I said, part. So I just edited this. I wanted to make sure. I think this makes sense as a basic framework for how. All right, so I sent out my email about how. All right, so framework. Move the.
I thought I heard something about the word red modifying that instead of ball, and the ball that is red is pretty, or something like that. Oh, because it's a pronoun. Relative pronoun. The relative clause is that is red. So red modifies that equal ball. Okay, that's fine. Never mind.
Move the part where I bring up the implication, the implied relative clause, into a parenthetical, and just have the actual part itself. So I think this makes sense as a basic framework for how. All right, so I sent out my email about adjective placement. So let's see what else there is to comment on. Just says analyzing. John gets sweaty when he does.
We'll figure out how long your videos took by how many new posts show up while you're making it. Because we can see your email incoming. And then we can go check the timestamps on all those emails. So, yeah, you can get spied on that way.
This is exercise routine. So my reading is, so I think this seems like a linking verb to me because it's relating John and sweaty. When he does his exercise routine. So under the FI grammar approach, so.
Well, it wasn't when you sent the emails that I meant, although that's relevant. I meant that you receive emails. We can just send an email to the list every 1 minute all day, and then we'll see how many you received during your video, and then we'll know to the 1 minute how many minutes your video took. Or failing that, we could just rely on the ones that already are used, and sometimes it'll give us information about video length.
No, I'm reading this again, and I see that just says his is an adjective modifying routine. It says which routine? No, it says whose routine. His says whose routine. Exercise is an adjective modifying routine and says what kind of routine. That's fine. Wait. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
I remember this thread.
It does like a compound noun or pizza modified by z. So if I think those are both okay. So I just made my point about no glasses with tables eating pizza. You can have multiple perspectives on that, and that's fine. I also say lots of sentences involve nouns getting more than one modifier. This just says what he thinks my modifying exercise routine makes more sense than my exercise modifying routine. And I don't think it necessarily makes more sense. Like there's lots of senses. He was a big strong man. She was driving a fast shiny car. It's like he was a big man. He was a strong man. Both of these are modifying man, big and strong, fast and shiny. They stand alone, and you don't need to say he was a big strong man. Strong man is a word, right? But that's a different thing. So I think these are clear words, like two adjectives modifying noun. Okay. I'm just letting you know that this is going to be on my video.
Okay, time to look at the physics a bit. No, they're not. This was gone over. You can literally measure this stuff. That's the only reason we know about them is because they come up in some measurements. What we can't measure is the weight of our current branch in terms of the entire multiverse, but we can measure the weight of branches relative to the start of an experiment. Like, you can't extend your measurements arbitrarily into the past to get, like, old information that's gone, but you can get information about, like, how branching works and what happens when you branch, and the weights relative to a starting point that you have actual access to. Hey, that's kind of reasonable. That's more reasonable than Ron, who is extremely arrogant. That's true. That you could theoretically have some other approach. Although I don't think that makes much sense, and like I think it should be branch weights. But yeah. One thing that's maybe notable is that Ron talking to other people is also bickering that's not very productive, I think. So that's not just an attribute of my conversations with Ron. It is a theme of Ron's conversations with everyone. So I think that helps point the blame. Although, of course, the main thing is to actually read what Ron and I said to each other. And look at the content and so on. But as a secondary minor indication, I think that's something. Also, conversations that don't go well are commonplace. That doesn't say a lot about a person if some of their conversations don't work out. What I think is maybe important is if you have some that work out really well. And maybe Ron has those somewhere else, maybe on a different topic or something, I don't know. But I'm not aware of any conversations by Ron that were like highly productive, and I think having some productive ones is the more important thing than whether some are unproductive. And I think clearly some of my conversations on FI work out pretty well and are productive, and like the other person thinks it's productive and so on. You have to be doing something right for any of your conversations to go well that are actually like substantive conversations instead of just small talk or whatever. This doesn't sound true at all to me. I mean, it depends what he means. Like if we're doing physics simulations, then sure we limit things. But like Copenhagen interpretation, where they just throw out all this stuff that has the wrong entanglement information. That's also a way of like a simplifying assumption. It's a way of slice and dicing, etc. But they're not doing that because the math is too complicated. They're doing that to deny the reality of things that they cannot see in a direct and straightforward sense. Like they want to just see and touch it with their senses instead of through a chain of logic using science experiments and reasoning, which is actually how we like know about everything. So the motivation there is really bad and it's not math related. But if he's talking about like certain limited things like, you know, computer physics simulations, then sure, we make a bunch of simplifications to make the math more tractable. Well, sure, but you can also have the wave function for a particular branch. Like, you don't have to look at the God's Eye entire multiverse. You can also look at branches, which is what came up earlier where I was saying you can measure branch weights, not for the multiverse as a whole for all of time, no. But yes, for a particular branch with a particular starting point you have access to. Well, that is a completely fair and reasonable point. And is another sign of Ron being kind of dumb sometimes. And unreasonable and sloppy and so on. No, he's actually double downing on this shit. Anyways, I could comment on this more, but he's kind of an idiot, and it's not that important to correct him, so I'm just looking for actually interesting stuff. Well, no, this is wrong. There are probabilities in some sense, or something like probabilities or whatever. Which is, you have a group of fungible instances, and then half of them become one way and half become another way. So for an individual instance, there's a 50% chance it becomes one way and a 50% chance the other way. So there's probability in that sense in MWI. He literally was unable to understand what branch indifference meant and then wouldn't discuss it. And he misparaphrased it from the paper he read, which had a definition, and then his version of what it meant like contradicted that definition. But also he wasn't paying attention to the definition, and he just keeps using it. Basically, if you read the two words branch indifference and you guess what they meant while having no idea about anything technical, he seems to actually use it roughly along those lines, not according to its actual definition. Okay, so lots of bickering. I'm gonna read a little more towards the end and see if it like reached conclusions. Now, this looks like they're still bickering. Yeah, it doesn't look like they're actually reaching like useful conclusions. Anyway, I don't care that much.
All right, more grammar. Today I'm going to go over some of these posts on options for infinitives that is a branch thread from the analysis of sentence with B number 8 thread. And this has all been, and I'm glad that Kate gave it a new name because it has definitely sprawled, the discussion has sprawled beyond merely talking about whatever example that Anne was talking about initially into a variety of theories about how to deal with infinitives in certain positions and senses. And I was thinking, oh, I should make my own thing that's sort of like summary of the state of discussion, like do an email, but Kate already kind of did that, so I'm just going to engage with Kate's stuff and comment on it. So, and yeah, my interpretive approach has changed. The whole discussion is the example was make an angry with an implied U at the beginning, and the whole point of contention was how do we interpret this part, and particularly angry, but just the whole thing. And so I've gone through a few iterations of interpretation and offered various arguments trying to get the point clear in my mind. And Anne and Kate and Anon have all participated in that discussion. I found it very clarifying and illuminating. So I'm just going to jump to the bottom of it because, and then I'm going to go scroll up and go through it. But I think what Kate is calling option 3 is my current position, which I also take to be the position of the Anon who was in this thread at some point, which is that for make him angry, you read it as subject implied you, verb make, object is him, to be is an implied infinitive, and angry. And then within the object, we break it down and we say the subject is him, the implied John. Whereas because of the way the sentence is structured, the actual thing, the referent, that's kind of a fancy word, but you could say the thing that the pronoun is pointing to, I just say that's the referent. The referent of the pronoun comes later. And so instead of the pronoun pointing back to an earlier time, you can think of it kind of pointing forward. But then to figure out the real structure and meaning of the sentence, you have to rearrange things a bit. So I think given that isn't really
some of your silences are too long now, I think. And also sometimes it seems a little choppy anyways, I think. But I think there's still issues with the silence removal. Like some of those pauses were quite long. And I'm listening at 2.6 at the moment. And yeah.
Then it makes, well, right, because, so yeah, where I was getting stuck is,
See, some of the words in there sounded choppy, but then there was also a really long silence. So I think maybe Screencast-O-Matic is not working great unless you manage to configure it better later.
because if you have two clauses, I see. So I was referring to
Right there, how long was that like whole pause? That was really long.
Elliot's grammar stuff in like all screens. So I figured I should at least bring the part I was carefully scrutinizing on screen so people could see. So, because basically we have two clauses, but then we do need some sort of conjunction.
I didn't actually buy Screencast-O-Matic yet, so let me know if you give up on it and I'll just stick with Reaper.
And I was wanting for whatever reason to think that that was a conjunction. But really how Elliot resolves it is he treats there being an implied and. So you see the structure here. There's a conjunction. The verbs are primary. They're like the conjunctions. The implied conjunction is at the highest level. Is basically Elliot's treating the sentence as having like a sort of semicolon. So you have that. Right, because if you had school is boring and I think that, like that would be fine. So that is almost like a dummy pronoun. Right, so it's kind of like the expletive stuff. So for example, for something like it is important that you work hard for the exam. If you want to analyze the subject, you basically the it drops out. And you say that you work hard for the exam is important. That's the subject verb complement relationship. This whole thing is the subject, even though it comes at the end. And this is the verb, and important is the complement. So the it just drops off completely. So this is a bit similar. So under this analysis, then, that school is boring is not actually serving as a direct object. So basically, I just quoted Eliot's analysis of this. I think that school is boring sentence and linked a picture of the diagram. So under this sort of analysis, what noun clauses would be legitimate? That's a question I had as I started thinking. And so I found some examples, and this sort of thing, whichever restaurant you pick, that seems fine to me to call a noun clause. It is a clause. I think the structure is you pick whichever, or maybe it's you pick restaurant and whichever modifies restaurant, because it says it can be a determiner used to emphasize a lack of restriction in selecting one of a definite set of alternatives. So if it just said whichever you pick is fine with me, then I think it would be the object. But since it's whichever restaurant you pick, maybe it's said as a modifier. But anyway, this whole thing I think is fine to say. Let me make this bigger.
It means whichever restaurant that you pick, there's a missing implied that. So it's restaurant is the subject, and then whichever is a modifier, and then that you pick is a modifier as well. I think.
I think it's fine to say this whole thing is serving as a or do you know what the weather will be? I think it's fine to say, it's like the beginning here is you subject, do know is like the verb with do as an auxiliary, and then what the weather will be is the object. And the internal structure is the weather will be what. So there's no extraneous words like with I think that school is boring. School is boring is a complete clause, but with the weather, what the weather will be, if you think about the internal structure, the weather will be what? You need each thing there.
The text like restaurant you pick doesn't actually stand on its own quite right. Like you can sort of see something's missing, and it's the word that.
Have a full clause. So that fact is a distinction compared to this scenario, where this clause is kind of complete, but then we have I think something, and so we need to complete that. We have this that. We need to complete the thought I think X. We have this that, and so we use the that to complete the thought, right? And also to point forward to the next clause. Is the idea here? Because right. So I think when we have a sentence like this, where we have a sensible two separate clause interpretation, where we actually have enough words,
Oops. Oh, I just need to back up then.
To complete the thought, there. I think it's fine to say. Say this whole thing is serving as a movement. For do you know what the weather will be? I think it's
Oh, yeah. Wait, maybe I think this might be wrong. I think it's one of the other meanings of that. It's a determiner? Maybe? I don't know. Pick, I think pick is a verb. In which case it ought to be a whole clause. I'm gonna delete that word, and now I won't be wrong. I'm just gonna not worry about it and let someone else figure out the details of the that clause.
It's fine to say. If you want to say that there's two separate, fairly separate clauses with that have like a conjunction between them, then you need something like you need enough sort of key critical words so that you can have the pattern like subject verb object, subject verb complement. And in this sentence, we have that, at least under Eliot's reading. But in something like I just looked up the difference between like what I've been calling auxiliary verbs and what I think of more as modal or helper verbs. And this page says that primary auxiliaries. Well, it says a modal verb is an auxiliary verb, but an auxiliary verb is not necessarily a modal verb. So primary auxiliaries can function both as a main verb, do I think is in that category, or as a helper. I have a car, I have seen her. And this one, it's have is the main verb, and this one, it's like more the helper. Whereas stuff like may, might, can, could, shall, will, etc. are modal auxiliaries. They can function as main verbs, so they need a real verb to come after them. So because with this sentence, like you do know, rewritten, right? You do know what that could be the subject verb object clause. I just changed stuff because I had like the word meaning and then the rewriting, but I don't think it's like, oh, it's the real meaning. I think it's more just like a rewriting for clarity, so I just put rewritten. So
Okay, I think I'm gonna stop the stream and get food after this video. And so if anyone has any questions, ask them now or in the next couple minutes if you want to ask the question.
you do know what, that's a clause. The weather will be what, that's a clause. So the rewritings are just about making the clause structure explicit and putting it into the standard subject verb object or complement form. Now, with I think that school is boring, we have subject verb object, no shared words in the rewritten version. But with do you know what the weather will be, after we rewrite both the main sentence and the noun clause direct object, we have a shared word. So they're not separate, they're stuck together. So we can't do the same type of analysis we did in terms of the structure. So we have to do something else.
Yeah, I think it's important that the word that is not working like a relative pronoun in this case. It's not playing a pronoun role in the school is boring clause. Whereas here it's like the weather will be what? The what is the object or complement of the be.
All right, so I did some diagramming, and I referred to Eliot's grammar materials more. And so I think that, like I was saying earlier, there's a couple cases to distinguish, which is when you have.
I did a lot of relative clause stuff in the with these diagrams for that video I made.
When you have something where like that is serving as a forward reference and is serving as the object of one of the clauses, versus when you have a word like say who and John who met me likes pizza, which is serving like two roles, which is both relating the clause to another clause and is also serving as part of the structure of the clause that it's in. So I think that with she forgot that it was my birthday. She forgot that it was my birthday is like, I think that school is boring. So we have the conjunction, we have I, think is the verb, I and that are underneath, and then is the governing word in its clause, and we have school and born underneath. And likewise, so this is an implied conjunction. And so forgot governs she and that, was governs it, and birthday, and then my is modifying birthday. For comparison, so we have.
I'm glad that you figured out how to use the software stuff I posted to make this diagram. Like, I guess my instructions were clear enough.
Do you know what the weather will be? So this is kind of like. Well, let me see if I can find a better example, actually. Right, so I like this example better. Whoever did it is smart. So the analysis that Elliot does is whoever is smart is sort of the core. And like the core main clause structure. So whoever serving as a pronoun, but it's also in this whoever, so to speak. I mean, it's one whoever, but at the level of the sentence structure, whoever is serving as the pronoun, and it's also, or the pronoun subject, and it's also relating this top level sentence to whoever did it. And then we analyze that, and within that sentence, it's also the subject. But notice, looking at it like this, we don't actually say like whoever did it is the subject, right? We say whoever is the subject a couple times, but it doesn't. In other words, whoever did it.
No, the whoever did it as a whole is the subject if you're not talking about the simple subject. Like that whole clause is in the subject position. Which is how the tree works. Like, it's all in the the thing, this blue line points to the subject, and the subject is this whole subtree thing. Like, this whole thing is the subject area. It's the same as where you have a subject that has, like, several adjectives. Then you would have the subject word right here would be the noun, but then you would also have off it the adjectives going down, down, down. And so the simple subject would just be the first thing, the noun, but then the whole subject would include the adjectives nested under that noun.
Well, I guess actually never mind on that particular thought. I guess it is like.
Oh, you just never minded the thing I just responded to.
By relating the rest of the clause, it is sort of turning it into a noun. So scratch that. But right, so that's the basic structure is whoever is wearing a couple different hats.
This is Demo Pro.
It's actually, so I misspoke. It's at this level of the sentence. It's not serving as a subject, but it's turning this whole thing into the subject.
And those are my shortcuts.
So that's at the big level of the
overall. You might want to
sentence.
screenshot them.
It's serving as a relator, I think. And then within whoever did it, that's when it's serving as the subject.
I did not like the default shortcuts. But once I changed it to this, I like it. One of the problems with the defaults is they used Control S, but Control S is my screenshot hotkey for selecting a screen region, which I like a lot because I use that a lot. I changed this one, copy picture of selected area to clipboard, to Control S, because it's my most used screenshot key by far. It lets you paste screenshots into like messages or Discord, and also I have my special script for uploading them from the clipboard and making a blog comment.
I think that's right. So likewise. Oh, actually. Right, so likewise. Do you know what the weather will be? What?
Also, in terms of hotkeys, I have my caps lock key mapped to Control, so it makes it easier to press, say, Control A or Control S because it's very close. That compared to the corner. The corner one's fine, but I also have the caps lock key, which I use a fair amount.
And when we're looking at the whole sentence, you do know what is serving as a.
Oh, I say corner one because I'm using a keyboard on which the bottom left corner is actually the control key. But a lot of Apple's keyboards now have a function key added on the bottom left, and then the control is like the second to the left, and it makes it a little harder to press and more awkward. And I don't like that, by the way. And if they would let me map it, I would like swap the function and control keys. I want the control to stay in the corner. Although the use of the caps lock key as control helps fix that problem.
Relator, pronoun relator, and it's connecting. So what is connecting this overall sentence to the noun clause direct object? And then within that noun clause direct object, the whether will be what, it's serving as the object, so it appears twice. And it appears twice because we need it twice in order to have all the essential functions of the sentence, the key sentence parts that we need fulfilled. We need a relator word, or whatever you want to call it, functioning in this object role at the top level of the sentence structure. And we also need an object here.
Yeah, I like the screen drawing software. It's very simple. You don't have to go click things. It's all hotkey based. And it doesn't take up any screen space. It's hidden, so yeah, I tried like 4. I kind of wanted more colors. Like one of them had 4 colors. And I've found 2 a little low occasionally, but usually it's fine. Usually I only use 1. Okay, I'm gonna end stream now. But that was good. I caught up. This was something like 85 and now it's 33. So I went through like 14 emails plus 50 videos plus physics comments. So I am more caught up now. I still have other stuff to do other than these emails even. Oh, and in terms of these emails, if you don't count the Overwatch and speedrun stuff, there's not that many left. Like there's maybe 4 more from Justin or 5. And there's the House of Sunny episode, and like that's it now. Oh, and the private equity thing. Like an article I had some comments on. So there's only about 7 more here that are actually relevant philosophy things.